going on today? 42. I'm Cadet Hernandez, the Public Affairs Recruiting Officer, the podcast guy, and today we have Captain Prendergast on our podcast, sir. So we're just going to dive right into it, kind of get an introduction of yourself, sir. So you could introduce yourself, name, rank, AFSC, and where you're from.
So as you've already introduced me, Captain Landon Prendergast. AFSC is a 17 Delta, so it's a Cyber Operations Officer. Sometimes referred to as like a comm officer. I'm originally, I call Ohio home, Springfield, Ohio, but I did college, and then I also did my last assignment down in Tucson, Arizona too. So soft spot for Arizona as well.
So what brought you to the Air Force? What was your commissioning source, ROTC, the Academy, or OTS? And how did you end up serving in this branch?
So I'd always been interested in military service. In fact, when I was in high school, I did apply for the military academies, thinking, hey, look, this looks like a good route. Wasn't accepted or got medically DQ'd from some of them, and realized, okay, well, there's this ROTC thing. And I decided, hey, let's go give it a shot. So I tried ROTC out at University of Arizona. And after the first semester, I was hooked. This was a lifestyle that I liked, so I kept rolling through it, and that's where I gained my commission. Was from University of Arizona, and then have kind of kept rolling. Once I found out I was going to be a cyber officer, just rolled right into tech school a couple months after I graduated, and the journey just took off from there.
Okay, so we're going to talk about your AFSC experience later on, but right now I want to focus on ROTC related things. So what was your ROTC experience like?
So I went to a smaller detachment, very different than a DET 842 here. DET 842 has provided a lot of different diverse opportunities that I think are very unique. So we didn't have as many of those diverse opportunities. What we did have, though, similar here, that proximity to a military installation like Davis-Monthan, we had the ability to go out and kind of do our own little ops Air Force when we wanted to go shadow officers, to see the airframes, to actually kind of be and see what the mission did. But being a small detachment too, we were all very close, and so we all developed into a very family-like network. Even to this day, we still all talk. I'm going to one of my friends' wedding in about a week too. Okay. So 8+ years later, it's still good to know that network is always there and they have your back.
That's some phenomenal stuff I'm hearing, sir. So any personal hobbies that you had while you were in ROTC, or maybe that carried on through your active duty career that you'd like to touch upon?
Yeah, so I've always been big into sports, both playing and watching. So while I was in college, I was always in intramurals, football, basketball, volleyball. Can't say I was the greatest at all of them, but hey, I was out there doing stuff. And I had a unique experience in college. While I was doing ROTC, I actually was involved with the Arizona Athletic Department and helped run the student section there for all of their sporting events. And so I was helping, organize trips to different football games, or pass out T-shirts, or throw flags into the stands, kind of make that fan experience fun for the college kids. So
absolutely.
That sports focus has continued through today. I still try to get involved with intramurals. I'm still watching sports every day, it seems like. So,
do you have a fantasy football team, sir?
I do. Yeah, we're only 1-1 right now, but the season's young, so I'll take the start.
Mine was looking promising too, and then I'm 0-2 now, and I kind of just lost hope. So we're just gonna leave that in the dust.
Season's young. Season's young.
So to get back on track with DET 842, what made you take this assignment? What interested you?
Yeah, so I had a couple different factors in play. First and foremost, you'll learn through your career, family above all else. My wife, she is actually a resident down here at the Brooke Army Medical Center. So she's a doctor working there, and our timelines worked perfectly to when she came on active duty and when I was supposed to move. Outside of that, I've always wanted to be an ROTC instructor. Ever since I went through and commissioned through ROTC, I knew this was something I wanted to come back to give back. I love mentoring. I love teaching cadets about, hey, what we do, where we're from, and all the different aspects that go into leading in this great force. And so San Antonio was a perfect opportunity, and as I learned more about DET 842, the fact that it's one of the largest detachments in the nation, they're really involved with the campus and the city area. There were just a lot of factors that really made it lucrative and hard to pass really over any other detachment.
Yes, sir. So I got to ask you one important question. How is the Mexican food here? Have you tried Mexican food here?
Oh, yeah, I have. And it's different. So my career's taken me to Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Oh, so pretty much all the great Mexican food.
So I've had the flavor of the border a lot, and it is different, and all three are different, too. I will say, like, hands down, you can't really beat the breakfast tacos here.
No, that's what we're known for.
Period. But even just the variety and the different spins people do on the Mexican food here, like I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, Tucson had its own blend with the Sonoran food, but kind of as a whole, San Antonio has nailed Mexican food.
Yes, sir, that's what we're known for. So now we're gonna get into the cadet questions. My apologies if I'm butchering your name, Cadet Atkinson. She's from Alpha Flight. What sparked your interest in cyber? What was your plan to pursue this a job in tech?
So it's funny you asked that. Cyber actually wasn't my first picked assignment. I actually had a rated slot as a senior, and when I went and did my flying class physical, I was medically DQ'd. So I submitted my sheet again, and the Air Force came back and said, "Hey, we need you to be a cyber officer." And I said, "Okay, that's what we're going to do." But I didn't really know a lot about it. So, I went into it almost, I wouldn't say completely blind, but I was doing a lot of learning on the fly of really what this career did, and learned that cyber and comm as a whole is a very big career field. You really touch a lot, if not every mission out there. And
Absolutely.
So it's a unique opportunity to have the flexibility to, you might be helping airframes talk to each other, but then you might be helping the finance office make sure their pay systems work. And so it's been a unique opportunity to kind of be those connections to help make sure the mission happens, no matter how big or small.
So would you say that your AFSC cyber has a lot of more opportunities than other AFSCs more so? Because I know other AFSCs have a lot of opportunities, but cyber, it seems like it's just you could do X, Y, and Z and just expand on that.
There are. I can't talk to some of the other AFSCs because even they have their own niche opportunities that may not be apparent coming into the Air Force. But cyber at large, I think what gets most of the popularity is the offense, the defense. Hey, I'm the hacker. I'm pounding away on a keyboard in a really dark room. Which that is absolutely a component of it, and the Air Force has done nothing but grow that side of the force. But where I came from, it's more think like your Geek Squad and your Spectrum provider and all of that meshed into one for a base. So we were the ones providing internet and phone service and radios, and then when all that stuff didn't work, we go out and fix it too. So everything from that kind of tech support, even down to the expeditionary mission. Hey, if some folks are going out in the field and they need some comms, then it's on a cyber officer and his or her team to organize that and maybe take out a satellite dish and some terminals, and they're going to actually connect and bring comm out into a remote area. So that's where the opportunities may not be apparent up front, but there's really some unique things you can do, all over the world as well.
So speaking of uniqueness, we have a question from Cadet Salazar from Charlie Flight. What was the most interesting or unique thing you've seen or done while in the Air Force, and did you plan on joining the Air Force before college?
So I'll answer the second part first. So yes, I had always had the desire to serve, and really the Air Force had always been, by and large, my focus. I've always loved airplanes and anything related to them. So really the other branches, all respect to them, the Air Force just kind of always had a leg up. For unique opportunities, I would say when I was stationed in Korea was probably one of my coolest opportunities. My team and I got to be part of a visit from President Trump when he came to the country. And so I had the opportunity to work with folks from the White House, from the Secret Service, and kind of see from their side really all of the uniqueness and difficulty that goes into a mission like that. and was pretty unique. It was also very chaotic for folks that were, tracking that mission very well. President Trump decided to go up to North Korea and go up to the DMZ to meet their president, and so we had to adapt and make sure that we had all the mission support for him to make that happen. And so a lot of real-time adjustments, but very unique opportunity to be able to say, hey, my team went out and helped support a presidential mission.
Not a lot of people can say that in the military sector.
It's few and far between, and so when those opportunities come up, even no matter how difficult, and it had some long nights attached to it,
Sure.
but a great opportunity nonetheless.
So this cadet wishes to remain anonymous, but their question is, what does a day in the life look like for a cyber operations officer, and what are some things you have to get used to when in the beginning of your career as a second lieutenant?
Yeah, so I have a unique, my start was very different from folks who might think, hey, I want to focus in that cyber operations. I'm working away on a keyboard. I got put into a lot of flight command positions early on in my career. Not really my first assignment, but my second assignment on, I was always a flight commander of usually a flight of no less than 60 members. And so while as a cyber officer, it sounds very technical, I was doing a lot of leadership and a lot of management and working with my senior NCOs on, does my team have the resources they need to accomplish the mission? Right. Am I following the intent of my commander to get that mission done? Right. Or am I identifying where the limitations are? So it's a lot of the areas between the black and white, and really kind of getting to know your folks, getting to know your team, understanding where they have those shortfalls, and then being that advocate for them, and pushing those forward to leadership or higher to say, hey, our team needs this to get the mission done. And so a lot of flight command was that. It was working with teams to get the job done, make sure they had what they needed, and kind of just keep the mission moving forward.
Absolutely.
Very different, though, someone who goes into the offensive or defensive side, they may work with a very small technical team, and they may actually be working on a computer, on a keyboard, doing operations themselves. And so that's a very different mindset and a very different day-to-day job, too. So within that career field, some days my friends who do the expeditionary mission, they might be dragging a trailer out into a field somewhere and just testing how to connect everything. So they might be doing a lot more hands-on, almost getting your hands dirty. So it can really vary from experience to experience within the career field.
Is that something that you have to apply to, whether that's being a flight commander or being on the offense and defensive side, or is that something?
So that's a good question. When you go through tech school initially, that's usually where they're going to do that first assessment of, hey, you've presented the the skills that warrant placement in one of those offensive or defensive sides of the career field. From there, though, you can be placed, and it's really at your commander's discretion of what job you hold. So I knew going into certain units, hey, you're going to go be a flight commander, and that's really up until now what I've been as a flight commander. Now it just depends on kind of what flight. They may have you start in a small one and then work towards that big one, or they may need help in that big flight right out the gate. So that's where it depends, and it's just kind of on you to adapt to that mission and those requirements.
Yes, sir. So what has been the most challenging and most rewarding aspect of your AFSC?
So challenging, I would say it's being in cyber, you can be very resource constrained very quickly. A lot of news was made about how slow and bad Air Force computers are, and we kind of got to see the forefront of that because my teams were the ones going out and trying to fix them and trying to keep them online, and we had to do a lot of advocating for folks to provide money to buy new equipment. And unfortunately, that was challenging because not everyone is as willing, but they don't understand maybe the cost benefit of, hey, if you invest now, this is going to help 5-10 years down the road. And so those led to some challenging times where we knew if we just had the money, which is something, across the Air Force you'll see, but resources were very limited, and so that presented a huge challenge to us. The rewarding side, though, has been 100% any of the interactions with my airmen and my teams, especially seeing them get rewarded. So I'll go back to my tour in Korea. One of the exercises we had the Republic of Korea, their equivalent of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, come to our unit after an exercise, and 3 of my airmen were recognized with a coin from him. Really cool opportunity because I had 19, 20, 21-year-olds, very fresh out of high school, going out and accomplishing the mission, but then getting recognized by one of the highest military ranking members of a different country. So it's really cool. It's always really rewarding to get to see your folks and your teams, get that attaboy, attagirl, get coin, get that handshake, get that letter of appreciation, because it knows like, hey, look, we're building them up. We're building them into those next leaders we want them to be, as they then take the helm of leading airmen. So 100% seeing my airmen kind of achieve what they can and really push the limits and kind of exceed standards has been hands down my favorite part.
So we're gonna dive into that aspect of mentoring and possibly being a mentee in your career, but did you cultivate any mentorship or a close relationship with an NCO or officer that was distinctive from any other members?
Absolutely, and I would say for both too, officer and enlisted. My first assignment was very unique in that I was the only CGO in this office I worked in, and so there actually weren't even any NCOs. It was senior NCOs and up, and so some of my first mentors were these very experienced master sergeants and senior master sergeants that weren't even from my career field, but they took me under my wing and kind of showed me, hey, here's what you need to think about as a lieutenant. Here are the things your airmen are concerned about, even though I didn't have any at that time. Like, when you do, ask these questions. Kind of figure out the what do they need? What do they want to do? Those questions that may not be apparent when you just step into a leadership role. They really helped me grow in that aspect. And then on the officer side, I've worked with some extremely open and willing officers who have been able to help me mold some of those leadership skills and watch me fall on my face, but then provide that feedback of, hey, here's how we get better tomorrow. DOs that I've worked with, so directors of operations at several of my units, have been folks I've always looked up to. I still reach back to them to this day for, hey, let me get your input on maybe a certain situation, or hey, I look at this way. Am I considering all of my options? And they're still there to say, hey, yes, or yes, but maybe actually think about it this way too. And resources and connections I'll keep throughout my career.
Absolutely. So speaking on the aspect of mentorship, what are some things you look for in your mentors?
So I think there's an approachability. So you want someone where you could walk into their office and So qualities that I look for in my mentor. So approachability is huge. Colonel Hoffman here preaches it as well, but I want to be able to go walk into my mentor's office and be able to freely ask them a question or bring up a concern without that fear of, are they going to get mad, or are they going to just like shoo me away because it's a silly question.
Right.
A lot of times I've walked into offices where, this probably is going to be a silly question. And they go, actually, no. Like, it's good that you're thinking of that because it's not as apparent to everyone. And so I think approachability is really that kind of a benchmark quality for me. And then I think it's the adaptability. Most people recognize we don't all know everything, but I've had a lot of mentors go, hey, I'm not as familiar with that, but I know someone who is, and let me connect you with them, or let me talk with them real quick, or even get them on the phone right now, and let's get this question answered. And so that approachability and that flexibility have really been able to help me grow, but they're qualities I've also been able to attach to as I become a mentor.
Absolutely. So we're going to kind of switch gears into DET 842 again. When it comes to working with us as cadets, what is the greatest piece of advice that your predecessors have given to you that you can pass on to us as cadets?
So I would say kind of twofold. As cadets, working through the program, don't be afraid to fail, but fail forward.
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid to make those mistakes as long as we're learning from them. you have that great opportunity and environment to make those mistakes and really learn how to maybe fix your leadership style. Not necessarily, hey, can I march correctly, but how I lead a team, how I manage resources. Well, this is a controlled environment where you can practice a lot of different things, and so I would say practice those skills. Don't necessarily latch on to one and then wait till active duty to realize, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea when you have a 150 person flight,
right?
And now your impact's a lot greater. You've also got a wealth of knowledge with the diverse population we have in the detachment.
Absolutely.
Latch on to those different experiences everyone has and learn from them, and that way you've got all sorts of tools in your toolkit to kind of pick from. And then the other side, it was preached to me in ROTC, probably the biggest piece of advice I have taken, but especially for the cadets about to commission, is the latching on to that senior NCO. I mentioned it previously, but knowing that, hey, the part of a senior NCO's job is to help mentor those young CGOs. We all have to be cognizant and recognize, hey, if we don't have a great senior NCO, but finding that senior NCO to help you vector in the right direction, to help better inform you so that you as the officer can make the most informed decision. Having that resource in your corner is going to be invaluable.
Absolutely. So as DET 42, you brought it up yourself, sir. We're just a melting pot, as Major Sullivan would say, of diversity. So in the aspect of our culture, what makes us unique, do you think, whenever you first, the impression of us whenever you first got here?
Yeah, so I'll say it is, looking back at my ROTC experience, we had some diversity, but coming here, it greatly, I think, exceeds that. And I think the population really plays into that. I see value, kind of what I mentioned, a lot of different upbringings, a lot of different backgrounds. Not everyone's a military brat and has kind of lived the military life in some form or fashion. We actually have some folks who might be older, some folks who were prior enlisted, some folks like me. I didn't come from a military family, so they're coming into this with a clean slate of trying to understand what the military is, and so that diversity here is a unique aspect, but it's a great opportunity for any cadet to be able to use those tools, use those experiences, and grow from them, and develop not only themselves, but as they build their teams, be able to figure out, hey, how do I build the best team and work with all these different individuals.
So what is something that you want to take away from being here at DET 42 by the time you leave?
So I know for me personally, I want to see myself develop as a mentor. That's for sure, and this gives a great opportunity not only as an academic mentor, but as a leadership development kind of mentor. That's something that is going to be a huge takeaway, because I get the opportunity to see young cadets try these different things and grow and fail but learn, and I'm there to help provide that insight, that and that motivation too, of, hey, to keep going. But I think the other takeaway is just the I really love seeing the final product, being able to sit at a commissioning, and even the commissioning we had over the summer where I didn't have any aspect of instructing or mentoring those cadets, now lieutenants. It is really cool. It goes back to that rewarding side to see that final end product of, hey, look, what we did is bigger than us. We just created so many new officers for the Air Force that's going to make our force bigger and better and stronger. And that's an experience that I can't wait to walk away from and be able to share that once I go to my next assignment of, hey, my mission was to develop these officers and was to see them go out and challenge the world as new second lieutenants.
Absolutely. So I think something that I pick up off of you immediately is that you like to instruct and mentor people. What kind of drove you to be such aspiration of being somebody such as a mentor and instructor?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it comes from growing up. I was always playing sports, and so I've always loved that the coach athlete mentality of, hey, coaching you, hey, I'm going to give you the tools and I'm going to show you the the ways to do something, and then okay, it's on you. Go perform.
Right.
And if something doesn't go right, here's how we make it better. I've always latched onto that, and then through my time on active duty, anytime I could help train in a certain way, whether it's hey, here's how you find that one random document that's buried somewhere, or hey, here's how we actually complete this process. I've always loved walking folks through and being able to teach the why behind it too, because sometimes that gets lost where
definitely.
If we can just teach from a piece of paper, great, that's good, and I'll check all the boxes, but sometimes folks may not get to see the bigger picture, and I love being able to tell, hey, what we do with, we'll say, customs and courtesies, why that's really important for why the Air Force, how the Air Force operates day to day. And so connecting the dots for some of those really is another rewarding aspect of the instructor experience.
So what would you say here at DET 842 is the most demanding or difficult part of your job?
I would say it's not even the like an individual cadets or anything.
Yeah.
It's, I think, just there's so many of you that we want to make sure we take care of everyone. And sometimes that taking care is providing that feedback of, hey, maybe the Air Force isn't right for you.
Right.
Maybe helping you steer into that different direction in life. But there's only so many hours in a day, and we'd love to be able to deep dive and really kind of build out and help you build out that plan of, hey, what do you want to do with the Air Force? What do you want to do with your life? Because the Air Force is this much of your life. Let's kind of look holistically and look big picture, but with all the other demands that we get as instructors too, with additional duties and just making sure that the detachment is running as it should, it takes time away, and so we have to really carve down and be resourceful about, hey, when we meet for things like midterm feedbacks, or when we have the opportunity to have open door policies so that you can come in and ask questions to us. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is just
having those tough conversations.
The tough conversations, they can be challenging, but sometimes those tough conversations yield even greater results, because maybe someone's never had that conversation before, and that actually turns on the light bulb of, maybe I do need to challenge myself a little bit more, or hey, maybe this isn't the option and the route I want to take, but now I can go explore different things. So, but with just all the other constraints and it creates other challenges to make sure we give that best feedback to y'all.
Absolutely, sir. So coming up on the 30-minute mark, so with that being said, is there anything that you would like to share with the cadets of the detachment about yourself that you haven't shared yet?
Sure. Yeah, I've already kind of touched on a lot of like my experience, my leadership skills, kind of where feedback I give to those cadets kind of about to enter the force. But I think the overarching thing is you're in a unique experience. Have fun with it. We're very different from the academy. We're very different from OTS. You have the opportunity to not be just a cadet, but be a college kid. And while you're in college, have fun.
Absolutely.
To an extent. There are those lines, but yeah, go out, live life, build those other life experiences. For me, doing the work with the student sections in college, where I got to go on road trips and really be a part of all these different athletic events. That's another experience I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life, because I got to do so many unique things, and it's also how I met my wife too. So, but go out and try those new things, because college gives you that perfect environment to try it. Because once you get on active duty, hey, the job starts and your career starts, and there's going to be a lot of demands on you for the mission, your future families, and everything. Life catches up too. So take advantage of this time you're here.
Absolutely. So I forgot to ask one question. This person also wishes to remain anonymous, but what does base gates closed and stay closed mean?
What's that?
Base gates closed and they stay closed.
Base gates closed and stay closed?
I don't know. That was from... I'm going to out her. That was from Captain McNatt. I don't know if I...
So, it could be... So, short story here. So, at my last unit, the base gates are all controlled through our comm network. And there were a handful of times I had directed some work to be done because it needed to be fixed in a certain timely manner. What we didn't realize, though, is... those would then in turn shut down the gates to entering and exiting the base. So they have to lock down. And I happened to do this a couple times at about 5 o'clock in the evening when everyone's trying to go home.
Okay.
And so when I, would get the call from the security forces DO of like, hey, why is the network down? Why do I have to lock everything down? I have to go, oh, yep, my guys are out working because I told them to do something. Like, give me 5 minutes and it'll be back up. So, I have I guess you call it a reputation, a fun experience of shutting down the base a couple times because we were just trying to fix a problem somewhere else.
I think she was trying to get at a story or something.
That's probably it. And that's one of my funny stories I've walked away from my last assignment from is, being that guy that actually shut down the gate unintentionally when everyone's trying to go home.
All right, so we're going to finish on that note. So thank you for being on this podcast. It was a privilege to have you. With that being said, this concludes our podcast with Captain Prendergast. Thank you for watching, and that's all.
Cool.